Hey there, and welcome back to another video on competitive Temtem builds here on the channel. Today's video is probably one of our most challenging yet rewarding ones to make on the Temtem how-to series, and the reason is because it's all about Tuwai and its evolutions. Tuwai is a unique Tem allowing you to have 6 possible evolution lines, all possessing their own strengths and weaknesses. We thought it would be best to showcase all of them appropriately in one video, so in this video, we'll be diving in and giving every single Tuwai evolution their own how to play chapter. But before we get any further into all that, let us first explain what this guide will include for anyone who is new to the series here on the channel. These how to play Temtem guides will share a collection of information pertaining to the spotlighted Temtem, their stats, species line, best locations to obtain, as well as an array of competitive information such as recommended movesets, builds, preferred teammates, and not so great matchups. Presenting all this information in a neatly packaged short video guide to help you play better Temtem. Now with all that out the way, let's jump right into it. Tuwai can be obtained as a secondary starter Tem or at any of the 6 elemental shrines located in the archipelagos. Sons of Crystal in Tukma, Dobmis Rest in Deniz, Aisha's Hearth in Kisawa, Digital Kami Shrine in Simpanku, Altar of the Inner Flame in Amnesia, and Chieftain's Barrow in Arbory. Tuwai's first trait is Spoil Sport, and its second trait is Resilient, and these traits determine which trait its evolution will obtain. Traits are always locked in Temtem per the entire line, with either being the first or second trait slot. Tuwai evolves into Tukai at Dobmis's Rest, Tulcan at the Altar of the Inner Flame, Tuvine at the Sons of Crystal, Turoc at Aisha's Hearth, Tuwire at the Digital Kami Shrine, and lastly Tutsu at the Chieftain's Barrow. Now we'll be getting into the individual guides for each of Tuwai's evolutions, so feel free to watch this video entirely or use the chapters to jump around to specific evolutions. But with that, we're starting with the water evolution Tukai. Tukai is a wind and water Tem with the traits Spreader and Hydrologist. Spreader causes all of Tukai's single target special techniques to target both rivals at the cost of reducing the damage output by 20%, if used to hit multiple rivals. Its other trait, Hydrologist, increases Tukai's damage from water techniques by 15%, both extremely viable traits. Its stats make it pretty well rounded in terms of speed and special stats, however its defense leaves it open to being one-shot by any physical electric priority move. Speaking of coverage, Tukai is weak to nature and toxic techniques, but is especially weak towards electric techniques with ×4 weakness. It can resist wind, water, and fire techniques, and also taking only 1/4 damage from earth techniques. Now, since both of Tukai's traits are both viable, we'll be suggesting 2 builds for Tukai. The first one being Spreader build, which uses Spreader as well as the techniques Windburst, Tsunami, Tornado, and Sharp Rain. We'd also recommend the item Hand Fan, which increases all of Tukai's wind techniques by 10%. This gear can be obtained as a reward from the Travel Rider's side quest after describing Amnesia. Our recommended TV distributions for this build is as follows: 1 HP, 75 stamina, 423 speed, 496 special attack, and 2 special defense. This fast set is for high damaging Tukai, with Spreader sitting at 80% total damage dispersed amongst 2 targets, and high damaging special techniques like Sharp Rain makes Tukai a serious threat. Even with its not so favorable defensive typing, being paired with teammates that can common factor, tag team, or even electric custodian should allow your Tukai to be quite a threat on the battlefield. Its next build is the Hydrologist build, which uses the techniques Noxious Bomb, Feather Gatling, Water Jet, and Tsunami. We'd recommend the item Shuin's Horn, which changes all toxic techniques used by Tukai into water type and increases the damage of those moves by 25%. This gear can be obtained as a reward by progressing through the main quest Beached Narwhal. It is found in Kakama Kenote. Our recommended TV distributions for this build is as follows: 1 HP, 75 stamina, 423 speed, 500 attack, and 1 special attack. This set allows Tukai to combine the gear Shuin's Horn, the technique Noxious Bomb, and the trait Hydrologist to do incredible amounts of damage for a no-hold technique. The only downside is that it is a physical technique and it requires physical attack investments to make this viable. This set also has the same disadvantages and would require teammates to make up for its weaknesses. Along with Tuwire and Ragnite, Hazrat does it fairly well, helping to get rid of nature type threats on the field. All in all, Tukai is an offensive Tem with a not so favorable typing, especially in the current meta. However, combining its high special attack and bulk allows it to pivot in and out of the field quite nicely. Next up is Tulcan, the Wind and Fire Tem with the traits Heater and Pyromaniac. Heater inflicts all the other Tem with the burn condition for 1 turn when Tulcan enters the field. This only activates once per battle and also affects your ally. Its other trait Pyromaniac increases all of Tulcan's fire techniques by 15%. Its stats make Tulcan a powerful Tem, probably one of the most powerful Tems for Tuwai's evolutions, with considerable offensive and defensive stats, and its coverage leaves it only weak to 2 types, being water and electric, whereas it can resist the techniques wind, fire, nature, and crystal types. For Tulcan, we'll be recommending the most commonly used Heater build, but feel free to use the other trait. This build uses the trait Heater and the techniques Windburst, Tornado, Fire Tornado, and Fiery Soul. We'd also recommend the item Marbles, which causes your rival to lose 10% maximum stamina and 5% maximum HP every time they enter the battlefield, with the holder also being on the battlefield. However, this effect cannot knock out a rival Tem. This gear can be obtained by collecting 20 Tem stickers and talking to Faria as part of the Gotta Stick 'em All side quests. Our recommended TV distribution for this build is as follows: 268 HP, 75 stamina, 158 speed, and 499 special attack. This set focuses on neutralizing high damaging leads and can often swing the outcome of matches in your favor. Marbles is great for forcing many switches, and Tulcan's high priority win technique Tornado makes for a great damaging move. In all honesty, Tulcan can probably pair well with almost any Tem in the game, but the 3 listed here as potential allies are great for rounding out its coverage while also adding to its overall bulky presence. Next up is Tuvine, the Wind and Crystal type Tem with the traits Receptive and Determined. Receptive increases the duration of any positive status condition by an extra turn, and the other trait Determined protects Tuvine from receiving any negative stat changes. Its stats make Tuvine a defensive wall with some decent speed and attack, and its coverage leaves it only weak to 2 typings, being melee and fire, whereas it can resist the techniques of wind, mental, and toxic types. For Tuvine, we think the most optimal build is the Determined build. This build uses the trait Determined and the techniques Crystal, Plume, Gatling, Feather Gatling, Tornado, and Noxious Bomb. We'd also recommend the item Fake Beard, which gives Tuvine the Invigorated status condition for 2 turns. This gear can be obtained in Neo Edo by completing the Crema side quest. Our recommended TV distributions for this build is as follows: 457 for HP, 497 for attack, and 46 for special defense. This set does best with allies that can lower the opponent's defense, so Tems like Mashuk and Skunch do very well with Perfect Jab. That and both its Gatling moves are great no-hold stab techniques that deliver quite the damage. The only real downside to this Tem is that it's extremely vulnerable to special attackers. Next up is Turoc, the Wind and Earth type Tem with the traits Escapist and Tactical Strike. Escapist protects Turoc and its allies from the trapped condition and cures their allies of the trapped condition whenever it enters the battlefield. Its other trait, Tactical Strike, increases the damage of Turoc's techniques by 20% if they require any holds. Its stats make Turoc a well-rounded bulky tank that can resist many typings, and its coverage leaves it weak to 3 types, being water, nature, and melee, where it can resist up to 5 types, being wind, earth, fire, crystal, and toxic. For Turoc, we think the most optimal build is the tactical build. The other trait just seems a little too situational. This build uses the trait Tactical Strike and the techniques Stone Ball, Feather Gatling, Turbine, and Rockfall. We'd also recommend the item Fake Beard, which gives Turoc the Invigorated status for 2 turns. This gear can be obtained in Neo Edo by completing the Crema side quest. Our recommended TV distributions for this build is as follows: 442 for HP, 56 for stamina, 498 for attack, and 2 for defense. This set makes great use of Turoc's strong stab attacks, with 2 of them being powered up even more with tactical strike. Its high stamina costing moves are offset with the fake beard gear, and its 5 resistances make it a very solid and well-rounded Tem. Allies like Tutsu are great for keeping Turoc bulky with tag team, where teammates like Saku can help with water threats. Kinu makes for a great ally Tem as well, allowing it to counter water types while also bulking Turoc up quite nicely. Next up is Tuwire, the wind and digital type Tem, with the traits Splitter and Common Factor. Splitter protects Tuwire from being inflicted with a negative status condition after being hit with a physical or special technique. Its other trait, and the more preferred one, is Common Factor, which gives all Tems on the battlefield the nullified condition for 2 turns whenever Tuwire enters the battlefield. Its stats make Tuwire a fast and solid attacker, and its coverage leaves it weak to water and digital and extremely weak to electric, kind of like Tukai, whereas it can resist wind, earth, and toxic techniques fairly well. For Tuwire, we think the most optimal build is the common build. Its trait Common Factor is just too great in terms of defensive viability not to use. This build uses the techniques Faraday Cage, Feather Gatling, Tornado, and Hologram. We'd also recommend the item Kaleidoscope, which causes any positive status conditions that would be applied to Tuwire to instead be applied to the ally, while also losing 1 turn of the effect. This gear can be obtained by collecting 60 Tem stickers and talking to Faria as part of the Gotta Stick 'em All side quests. Our recommended TV distribution for this build is as follows: 497 HP, 4 speed, and 499 attack. This set makes use of Tuwire's unique trait to neutralize all Tems on the battlefield, any threats or potential resistant walls, and allows for Tuwire and an ally to take advantage with high damaging moves. Using its hologram combined with Kaleidoscope allows Tuwire to support an ally. Allies like Mashuk, Tortonite, and Zyobian seem to pair really well with this set of Tuwire. And last but not least, we have Tutsu, the wind and melee type Tem, and one of my personal favorites, with the traits Tag Team and Contemplation. Tag Team decreases the damage Tutsu takes from techniques by 15% if both Tutsu and the ally share a common type. And the other trait, Contemplation, gives Tutsu +2 attack whenever they rest. Its stats make Tutsu a super fast all-rounder, and its coverage leaves it weak to electric, mental, and digital, but allows it to resist wind, earth, and melee techniques. For Tutsu, we think the most optimal build is the Tag build. Its trait Tag Team is just too great in terms of defensive bulk not to use. However, if you were running a more hyper offensive set, then Contemplation would also be fairly viable. This build uses the trait Tag Team and the techniques Show Off, Haito Uchi, Feather Gatling, and Noxious Bomb. We'd also recommend the item Nutrition Bar, which causes Tutsu to restore 6% of max HP after being attacked by a damage dealing technique, but only during the first 4 turns Tutsu is on the battlefield. Tutsu also needs to start the turn on the battlefield for this effect to trigger. This gear can be obtained by completing the Mushroom Hunting side quest. Our recommended TV distributions for this build is as follows: 500 in HP, 16 in stamina, 1 in speed, 476 in attack, and 7 in special defense. This set makes use of Tutsu's fast and bulky characteristics. It also makes a great supportive Tem for any Tems that can share in Tag Team. Haito Uchi and its Gatling move deal the damage, where Show Off allows it to set up properly. Tutsu has a great time whenever it has allies that can activate Tag Team while also doing their own thing on the battlefield, making it quite the monster on many competitive teams. Well, that pretty much wraps up this how to play guide for every single Tuwai evolution. We hope you guys enjoyed our builds, and be sure to let us know what you think and what your builds would look like in the comments down below. Also, check out our Discord if you would like more helpful resources in the way of Temtem. Well, now that we have every starter completed in Temtem, It's only fair we travel through the Airborne Archipelagos and bring you a guide for every other species line. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and we'll see you in the next one. Till then.